Have you ever actually felt it? That kind of quiet, just lingering tension?
Oh, absolutely. It's usually.
Yeah, it creeps up in those moments when you finally slow down, right? Like maybe right before you fall asleep, or you're on a long drive with the radio off.
Right, when the distractions are finally gone.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
you are entirely capable of moving forward. You have the drive, you have the ambition, you've got the vision for what you want.
Mm,
And yet there is this just undeniable feeling of being anchored securely in place. You feel completely stuck, but you can't quite point to the chains holding you down.
yeah, it's incredibly frustrating for people.
It is. So if you are listening to this right now and nodding your head, I want to welcome you to today's exploration. We are spending our session today completely immersed in the Breakthrough Bulletin. It's called Letting Go and Moving Forward, and it's written by Coach Renee.
And I got to say, it is such a vital, universally relevant topic.
Yeah.
Everyone deals with this. And what makes Coach Renee's approach here so compelling is how she just completely flips the traditional script right out of the gate. I mean, she introduces this massive paradigm shift regarding how we view the very concept of letting go.
Because culturally, we're kind of conditioned to think of letting go as a failure, right?
Exactly. We view it as this act of weakness, like you're giving up or you're admitting defeat. The narrative is, if you let go, you just couldn't hack it.
You weren't strong enough.
Right. But her premise argues the exact opposite of that. She says letting go is actually a profound, deliberate declaration of commitment.
A commitment?
Yes, a commitment to who you are actively becoming rather than just passively accepting who you have always been.
Which is such a deeply empowering way to look at it. And our mission for this conversation today is to take that paradigm shift and help you turn it into a lived reality.
Turn the theory into practice.
Exactly. We want to walk you through Coach Renee's practical tools so you can identify the outdated stories, those hidden resentments, and the invisible patterns that are currently keeping you rooted in the past.
Because you have to see them to release them.
Right. And the goal here is to help you reclaim your energy, your clarity, and your momentum. Because every meaningful chapter of growth absolutely has to begin with an ending.
Which brings us to the foundation of this entire process. Before you can end anything, you have to know exactly what you are dealing with. And this is the first of the 3 actionable tips outlined in the bulletin.
Okay.
You have to name what no longer fits. You cannot step into a new chapter without taking a completely honest inventory of the current one.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because on the surface, taking inventory sounds, simple enough. But why is it actually so difficult for us to do? Why are so many of us walking around carrying outdated beliefs or habits and relationships that are clearly past their expiration date?
Well, mostly because we don't even realize we are carrying them.
We're just oblivious to it.
Pretty much. I mean, we get stuck holding on to this baggage, largely because these mindsets were originally forged in survival.
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Think about it. A defensive habit you developed, say, 10 years ago, might have been exactly what you needed to emotionally survive a toxic workplace.
Or a really difficult relationship.
Exactly. It served a vital purpose back then. It kept you safe. Or, you might be carrying habits you simply inherited from your environment or your family.
Scripts you never actively chose for yourself.
Right. We don't hold on to these things out of pure stubbornness or some hidden desire to be miserable. We hold on to them because of a sheer lack of awareness. We've just never hit the pause button long enough to examine them. But, as Coach Renee points out, you cannot release what you refuse to name.
You cannot release what you refuse to name. That is powerful. So how do we start naming them without getting entirely overwhelmed? Because looking at everything wrong in your life all at once sounds terrifying.
It does. But the bulletin gives us a really accessible micro step to start this process. It's just a 10-minute activity.
Okay, what do you do?
You grab a sheet of paper and create 2 columns. You label the first one, still aligned, and the second one, no longer fits. And the instruction is to sort the key elements of your current life. So your habits, your beliefs, your relationships, your daily routines, into those 2 columns.
Just wrote them into the buckets.
Right. But the critical constraint here, this is important, is you have to do it without judgment. You are just taking stock.
I imagine the without judgment part is by far the hardest step. If I realize a relationship or maybe a career path I've invested 5 years into suddenly belongs in that no longer fits column, my immediate reaction is going to be panic.
Panic or guilt.
Yeah, guilt, or feeling like I've completely wasted my time.
Exactly. And that is why treating this as a totally neutral audit is so important. You aren't making immediate decisions to just burn your life down today. You are simply mapping the territory.
You're just looking at the map.
Right. You are asking yourself honestly, which of these things still align with the person you were working so hard to become? By simply seeing these misalignments clearly mapped out in black and white, you actively begin the process of change. The awareness itself starts doing the heavy lifting.
It's like finally turning the lights on in a really cluttered room. You might not clean the room right that second, but at least you stop bumping your shins on the coffee table.
That is a perfect way to put it.
But all right, let's say I've done the exercise. I'm staring at this no longer fits column, and honestly, it brings up a lot of emotion. Maybe I'm angry at myself for holding on to a bad habit for so long, or I'm deeply resentful toward a person who ended up on that list.
Sure, that's incredibly common.
What do I actually do with that heavy emotion so I don't just, shove it right back into the closet?
That is the perfect segue into the second tip, which directly addresses that exact emotional weight. And the tip is forgive to release.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because I think forgiveness is one of the most loaded, misunderstood words in the English language.
It truly is. When people hear they need to forgive, they often bristle immediately.
They put their walls up.
Exactly. They assume it means condoning a terrible action or pretending a real hurt never existed in the first place.
Or somehow letting someone off the hook for their bad behavior.
Right, but Coach Renee clarifies this beautifully. Forgiveness, in this specific context, is not about the other person at all.
It's not.
No, it is a decision you make purely for yourself. In fact, she frames it as a profoundly selfish act in the best possible way.
Wait, calling forgiveness a selfish act feels almost taboo. If someone really wronged me, doesn't letting it go mean they won? How is that serving me to just let them off the hook?
Because you aren't letting them off the hook. You are taking yourself off their hook.
Oh, wow.
It is a conscious decision to stop allowing a past experience to actively consume your present energy. Think of it this way. Resentment is a heavy weight that only the person carrying it feels.
Only the person carrying it feels it. That is a gut punch.
Yes, you are hauling around this massive, exhausting boulder of resentment on your back. You're sweating and struggling, and the person or the situation you are resentful toward doesn't feel a single ounce of that weight.
They're probably at a coffee shop having a great time.
Exactly. They're likely going about their day completely unbothered. Meanwhile, you are giving your precious, limited, present-day energy to a coast, to something that is already gone.
Okay, so to put this boulder down, what is the actual micro step for this one?
You are instructed to identify just one person or one situation or, and honestly, this is often the most impactful one, a past version of yourself that you have been holding in resentment or regret.
I really want to highlight that. Forgiving past versions of ourselves. We are so often our own harshest critics, right? Holding on to the shame of mistakes we made years ago when we simply didn't know any better.
Absolutely. So you take a blank page and you write that name or that situation at the very top.
Just the name.
Just the name. And you don't need to write a 10-page essay justifying your feelings. You just write one single radically honest sentence. You write what exactly you are choosing to release and why releasing it serves your personal growth.
So, for example, I might write something like, I am choosing to release my resentment toward my old boss because holding on to it is making me cynical in my new job. Something like that.
Exactly like that. You are extending this forgiveness as an act of personal liberation. And you don't ever need to share this piece of paper with anyone. The physical act of writing that honest sentence is your first step toward freedom.
That feels very doable.
And there's a brilliant caveat here that she includes. You do not have to feel completely ready to forgive.
You don't.
No, you simply have to be willing to begin.
Just willing to begin. That lowers the barrier to entry so much.
Oh.
Okay, so we've named what doesn't fit. We've initiated the release of resentment through this selfish forgiveness. Now we arrive at the third tip, which is focus forward. So what does this all mean for our daily lives? Once we drop that heavy boulder, what actually happens?
Well, when you genuinely release a part of the past, a vacuum is created. A literal gap of time, energy, and mental real estate opens up in your life. And the fundamental principle here is that where attention goes, energy flows.
Meaning, if I don't intentionally fill that new gap with something positive, my brain is just going to panic and fill it with whatever is closest at hand.
Precisely. If you do not actively redirect your focus, your mind is naturally going to drift right back to familiar territory.
Even if it's bad for me.
Yes, it will do that even if that familiar territory is completely unhealthy, simply because the brain craves the known over the unknown.
It prefers a familiar misery to an unfamiliar possibility.
That's a great way to say it. So choosing what to build next isn't just some fun vision board exercise you do on a Sunday. It is a vital, necessary act of completion.
You essentially have to give your brain a new set of instructions, a concrete picture of who you are becoming, rather than just a vague wish like, I want to be less stressed.
Right. And to anchor this new direction, the micro step here is to write a forward declaration.
How does that work?
You sit down and write 3 to 5 sentences describing this next version of yourself. But the key mechanism is that you must write it in the present tense, as if it is already entirely real.
So no, I will, or I want to.
Correct. You begin with the words, I am someone who.
I am someone who speaks my mind calmly in meetings, or I am someone who prioritizes my rest without feeling guilty.
Spot on. And the instruction is to read this declaration aloud every single morning for 7 days.
I imagine saying, I am someone who, when you don't quite feel like that person yet, creates a bit of internal friction.
It does, but that friction is the point. You are reprogramming your internal compass. By starting your day stating this as a fact, you begin to unconsciously look for ways to prove yourself right. You get to watch how your daily micro-decisions begin to spontaneously shift in response to this new focal point.
So those are the 3 foundational tips: naming, forgiving, and focusing forward. But doing this requires a serious depth of self-awareness. It's so easy to surface-level skim our own lives, but the Bulletin provides 2 catalyst questions to help unlock that deeper layer of honesty.
This raises an important question about how we usually process our own problems. We so often just skim the surface, accepting the very first easy answer our brain gives us.
Yeah, whatever keeps us out of trouble.
Right. But questions are the true engine of self-awareness. A good question, if you give it enough breathing room, can bypass years of superficial thinking.
And the instruction here is to set aside a quiet moment, resist the urge to just snap out a quick rehearsed answer, and actually let these questions breathe. So the first catalyst question for you to explore is, what belief, habit, or relationship is holding you back?
And for this exploration, you need to sit with the question before you even pick up your pen. Just sit in the discomfort of it. Then, you journal completely freely, without stopping, for 10 minutes.
10 whole minutes.
Yes. Do not edit yourself. Don't worry about grammar or sounding perfectly enlightened. Let whatever needs to come out, come out.
Because usually the most honest answer is the one that shows up right after you think you've completely run out of things to say.
Exactly. And when those 10 minutes are up, you read back over what you just poured onto the page. You are looking to underline one specific thing.
Just one.
Just one. The one sentence that feels the most undeniably true and simultaneously the most uncomfortable.
The most uncomfortable.
Wow. Because that discomfort is your compass pointing straight to the blockage. That sentence is exactly where your real work lives. Which leads directly to the second catalyst question. And this one is designed to take that uncomfortable truth and flip your perspective entirely.
Okay, what is it?
What if letting go was the key to your next breakthrough?
What if letting go was the key to your next breakthrough? That is a phenomenal reframe, because our default assumption is that holding on is what keeps us safe.
We grip so tightly.
We do. We think guarding our habits or gripping tightly to a relationship is what protects us from the world.
To explore this, you write that exact question at the top of a fresh page. Then your task is to list out every single reason that letting go feels dangerous, irresponsible, or totally impossible to you right now. You get all your deepest fears out into the open daylight.
So I might write, if I let go of this career path, I'll be a total failure. Or if I let go of this relationship, I'll be alone forever. You just list it all out.
Yes. And then, right next to every single reason you listed, you have to write one sentence that actively challenges its validity.
You argue with yourself.
You interrogate your own fear. And this exercise leads to a profound realization. You will often find that the very thing that feels like it's protecting you is actually a prison.
A prison?
Yes, and the most shocking part, you realize the door to that prison has been completely unlocked this entire time.
You've just been sitting inside, holding the door shut from the inside.
Exactly.
It's wild when that finally clicks. Now, I want to shift our focus to the final tool presented in this issue, because it moves us from the intellectual to the highly physical. Sometimes we can analyze things, we can journal about them, we can logically understand exactly what we need to do, but intellectualizing it just isn't enough.
And that is a very crucial limitation of our psychology to understand. If we connect this to the bigger picture of human behavior, the unconscious mind often needs a tangible, physical signal.
Can you give an example of that?
Sure. Think about a computer with 50 browser tabs open.
Oh, the story of my life.
Right. You can mentally decide you are done working for the day, but until you physically click the little X on those tabs, the computer's processor is still running them in the background. It's draining the battery.
It doesn't care that you decided you were done.
Exactly. Our brains work similarly. We need a physical ritual of completion to genuinely register that a chapter has definitively closed. Without that physical ritual, we stay trapped in a state of inertia.
Just idling.
Yes. But with it, we move from inertia to deep intention, and we fully reclaim our personal narrative.
And that is exactly what the release letter is designed to do. The Bulletin calls it one of the most powerful tools available for processing unresolved emotion and moving forward intentionally. Let's walk through exactly how to execute this, because the steps are very, very deliberate.
They are. First, you absolutely must find a quiet, uninterrupted space where you feel entirely safe to be fully honest with yourself. This isn't something you do on your phone during a crowded train commute. You need to set aside a dedicated 20 to 30 minutes for this.
Okay, so you're in your quiet space. At the top of your page, you write your opening address. To, and then you insert the name, the habit, the belief, or the past chapter.
Then you begin by writing what this person, this pattern, or this specific period of your life meant to you. And the key constraint here is to acknowledge its role clearly without minimizing its impact, but also without overly dramatizing it.
Keep it grounded.
Right. Just state the facts of what it was and the literal space it occupied in your life.
Next, you have to write honestly about what it cost you. This is where you look at the energy you spent, the time that passed, the opportunities you might have missed out on, and really importantly, the parts of your own authentic self that you had to set aside or shrink just to maintain this habit or relationship.
And after you've laid out all those costs, you pivot. You must write at least one thing you genuinely learned or gained from the experience.
Even if it was awful.
Yes. Coach Renee emphasizes this heavily. You write this no matter how difficult or painful the experience was. Finding that one kernel of learning helps neutralize the pure, blinding resentment. It allows you to extract the wisdom and leave the pain.
Extract the wisdom, leave the pain. I love that. Now comes the most important part of the letter. You have to close it with a clear, undeniable, final statement of release.
This is the moment you close the browser tab.
Yes. The source material provides the exact phrase to use, and it carries so much weight. You write, "I am choosing to let you go. I am grateful for what you taught me, and I am no longer willing to carry you into my future."
I am no longer willing to carry you into my future. That is the definitive boundary. Once you have written that, you sign the letter with your name, and you write today's date to really timestamp the decision.
And then the physical ritual culminates. In a safe and intentional manner, you completely destroy the letter. You can burn it in a fireplace, you can put it through a shredder, or you can literally tear it up into tiny, unrecognizable pieces with your own hands. The act of destruction is the act of completion.
And as you are destroying it, you take a very slow, deliberate breath.
Yes.
And this next part is crucial. You don't just immediately jump up, check your phone, and go right back to your day.
Resist the urge to distract yourself.
Afterward, you sit quietly for a few moments. You pay close attention to what your body feels like in that exact moment. Notice the physical sensation of having finally put the boulder down.
And finally, you write down just a single word or one sentence describing exactly what you are now making room for in your life.
It's about immediately claiming that new, empty space before the chaos of daily life can rush in and fill it with junk.
Yes. This entire process, from the honest inventory to the forgiveness to the catalyst questions to this incredible heavy letter, it all builds toward a singular, beautiful truth. And the Bulletin captures this perfectly by featuring a brilliant insight from the researcher Brené Brown. She says, letting go isn't losing, it's making space for something greater.
That quote directly attacks the core fear that keeps so many growth-minded people totally stuck. We falsely equate releasing something with losing it. We think if we let go, we are going to be diminished or erased or emptied out.
Like we're losing a part of ourselves.
Right. But in reality, every act of genuine letting go is fundamentally an act of creation.
Wow.
You are not emptying yourself out. You are actively, deliberately making room for the person you're becoming.
The past does not have to be totally erased to be released. You keep the lessons, you keep the wisdom, but you drop the heavy, outdated framework. You are finally taking the pen back to write the next chapter yourself, rather than letting past experiences dictate the plot.
Which is the ultimate benefit of doing this kind of deep, uncomfortable work. It transitions you from being a passive participant in your own history to the active architect of your future.
Which leaves us with one final, provocative thought for you to really chew on as you step back into your day. We've talked a lot about the fear of letting go and the fear of losing what is familiar. But if letting go truly creates an empty space, a gap in your life, the real question isn't just what you're willing to release today, it's asking yourself, are you actually more terrified of the emptiness than you are of the baggage? What happens when you finally have to meet yourself face to face in the quiet of that newly empty space?
That is a phenomenal question. It is often the quiet that terrifies us most, not the letting go.
Absolutely. If you found value in this conversation and the tools we explored from Coach Renee today, and you want more opportunities for personal growth exactly like this one, make sure to subscribe. You will find the subscribe links right down in the caption.
Keep reflecting, keep asking yourself those hard, uncomfortable questions, and most importantly, keep moving forward.
Thank you so much for joining us for this session. We will catch you next time.